What is up, y'all? RJ here with CV Tech, and right now I'm going to do an Antutu benchmark and a Geekbench for quadrant test between the old Motorola Moto E 2nd generation versus the LG Tribute HD. Both of them right now are on 50% brightness. This has a resolution screen of 540 by 960, while this one has 720p. But looking at them, the Motorola is brighter. So I do have all of the stuff downloaded for this. What we're going to do right now is going to go into Clean Master, just clean everything out, and get that out of the way. Now, like I say, benchmark tests are just something that I run. I don't put a whole bunch of stock into them. I just run them to give you kind of an idea of how both of these phones basically run. Now while this is doing this here, I'm gonna give you a rundown of the difference in the specs between these two devices. So we're going to clean junk, get that out of the way. And while we're backing out here, and I will go ahead and get into the test here before. So first of all, first what we're going to do right now is we're going to run a Geekbench 4 test on these two devices. Now, I want to try to zoom in a little bit here. As you see, if I get to zoom in, the LG Tribute HD Android is 0.0.1, 1.27 gigahertz processor, 1.37 gigabytes of internal storage. Now, I'm not sure what's going on here with the Moto. Let's go ahead and go in here and clear everything out. For some reason, it has stuck on me, and I was not expecting that at all. So let's just go in here and clear everything out and start all over. How about that? Clear out all the games, all the mess in these two phones. So let's go in here, Geekbench 4, back into Geekbench 4. As you'll see, this one here is running a 1.21 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor with 899 megabytes of RAM, which it is 1 gigabyte of RAM versus, of course, a 1.3 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 210 with 1.5 gigabytes internal storage. However, it says 1.37. So what we're going to do right now, side by side, is run these two tests. Now, this one here, the Moto E, it does run the Snapdragon 400 processor, 1.2 gigahertz quad core. So I'm kind of interested to see, how these are going to work out. Now, the Moto E 2nd generation has been out for quite some time, and let me try to just brighten up the screen here to match up with the Moto E, because for some reason the Moto E just outshines the LG Tribute HD. And I will also be doing these comparisons along with the LG Tribute 5, but I really just wanted to do this here because this right here is an old phone running an old processor with half the ROM, or not half the ROM, but a half a gigabyte less ROM, 1 gigabyte versus 1.5 gigabytes, and 8 gigabytes internal storage versus 16 gigabytes of onboard storage. So there's going to be a difference there. However, the Moto E 2nd generation is probably one of the more powerful. No, this actually runs a 410 processor. I'm so sorry about that. The Moto E runs the Snapdragon 410 versus the 210. So we're going to see how similar they are versus Android 5.1 and Marshmallow over here. So this is going to take a little bit of time here to run, but I gotta say, the Moto E is definitely no slouch. If it had a little bit more RAM, some more internal storage, and definitely better cameras, the Moto E 2nd generation 2015 model will still be a very relevant phone. And it is still, because it's very smooth and it works very well for the time frame that it came out. And if anybody asks me, if they want a 4.5-inch display device that works well, that don't break the bank, and you can get it for around 30-40 bucks, I would say go for the Moto E 2nd generation. You got your front-facing speaker up top here, that projects some really nice, clear sounds. There's no flash on the rear, which is a big bummer, as you see there. And the front-facing camera is something left to be desired. But for what it is, whenever they make, I hope that whenever they make a 2016 model or a 3rd generation Moto E, it will come to Boost Mobile, and it will be a whole lot better and wipe a lot of these budget devices off the map. Because Motorola, I've always liked Motorola devices. They've always seemed to be very good. They've always seemed to be very good in reception, very good in smoothness, very good in battery and call quality, and just overall a great phone. And so I have absolutely nothing I can say bad about Motorola, other than the fact that I've had a lot of restarts on Motorola devices over the years. So I'm rambling on right now. It's late. It's like 3:43 in the morning here. And I just decided I'm going to make a couple videos. I've not done any in a while. I'm going to do a camera test here on the LG Tribute HD here soon. It's supposed to be hot this week, but supposed to be very, very nice and beautiful this weekend. So therefore, I may go out and do the camera test on this phone then. Hopefully going to the mountains, to the Blue Ridge Parkway, up in the Blue Ridge Mountains this weekend. If all that pans out and works out, I'll be taking different phones like the Tribute HD, the Warp Elite, the Stylo 2, the iPhone 5S, and just taking some phenomenal fall foliage pictures and just videos, and just making a whole CV Tech day out of it. You know what I'm saying? So this phone right here is leading by a pretty good margin, 41% and 29%. Let's just kind of zoom in here a little bit to get a little bit more of a focus so you can see what's going on. I can't seem to get my tripod just right, but I apologize for that, but you can still see them very good and very well. So hopefully, if that all pans out this weekend, I will be making the 2.5-3 hour drive up to the mountains to get some very good fall pictures. And hopefully, if that works out, then you'll see some very awesome pictures and some of the best camera tests that I've ever done. Hopefully, if it all works out and pans out right, because like I said, having 3 or 4 phones with me at the same time, taking the exact same pictures with different phones, then I'm really interested to see what's, and having them all compiled in together, showing you what phone is which and all that cool stuff. It's going to all be in automatic mode. It's going to all be in just, point, shoot, no special effects, no filters, no nothing. It's just take the camera out, turn it on, take a picture, and whatever comes out, comes out. No HDR, no none of that stuff. Just straight out pictures, which is what everybody wants to see, in my personal opinion. So, with that being said here, this is taking forever, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this here, and I will come back in just a few seconds. Okay, so finally, after about 5 to 8 minutes of lagging behind here on the LG Tribute HD, as you see, the Motorola 511 single score, 1293 multi-score, while the Tribute HD got 413 single score and 1064 multi-score. Actually, the Motorola fell asleep twice waiting on the LG Tribute HD to actually finish the test. So I won't be running an M22. I did run that earlier, and both of them was around 20,000, about dead on equal. So I will actually right now go back home, and I will do one more test, and that will be a quadrant standard test, which I've already ran as well. Might as well go ahead and run it again. So let's go ahead here and start at the exact same time, and we'll see which one finishes first and everything else again. So honestly, I gotta say, the biggest problem that I've seen with the Moto E second generation is dealing with, I think, the low RAM. And sometimes whenever you're doing heavy multitasking and stuff like that, it tends to, when you push the home button, the apps disappear for a few seconds and they finally come back. But for the most part, the phone is still very relevant for 2016. This phone is 2 years old, versus the phone that's been out for just a couple of weeks. And honestly, I gotta say that I gotta really chalk it up to the Moto E second generation, because it really handles well compared to some of the, even with the newer phones that's coming out. So we'll go ahead and here and check them all out and see what scores we ran, and looking at them together here. If I can get this in my hand without it falling out and falling on the floor. As you see here on the Moto E, we got 14,173 versus 9,352. So quite a bit of difference, even with the 16 gigabytes of onboard storage versus 8, and 1 gigabyte of RAM versus 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, 1.3 gigahertz quad-core processor versus 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor, Snapdragon 210, Snapdragon 410. It still is a big difference. So I'm sorry this was so long. This was just a benchmark comparison here between the Moto E second generation and the LG Tribute HD. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. If this was informative in any way, leave me that thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel if you ain't already. I'd really appreciate it. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see y'all in the next video.